I think the thing that's most important to Sarah and I after all these years is just that we love what we create. Everything. From the new pair of sweatpants that we put up on the online store, to the new record, to a DVD package, to the live show. Like, we pour over every detail. Even after all these years, we still approve the ticket price, the venue, the, merch provider, the actual make of t-shirts. Like, we get the print of the, CD booklet and make sure it's high quality enough. Every detail is so important to us, and so when it comes to the actual music, no matter what genre you can push us into from record to record, at the core are great songs. And I think that Sarah and I are so honest and so vulnerable in our music that it's kind of like you're really getting a piece of us. And 1999, which is when we put our first record out, and 2013, that's a long period of time. Yeah. And things have changed, so we've changed. But I think the part of us that has stayed consistent is what holds people kind of with us and to us. And so to answer your question about, like, what's more, or is it important to us to have that indie credibility while also having mainstream success? Of course. Because I think what people mean when they say indie credibility is that essence of who we really are. Are those quintessential Tegan and Sara attributes still in the music? Absolutely. But are we interested in getting coverage on Rolling Stone or having a song on the Girls soundtrack or touring with the Killers? For sure. I mean, as far as we can go, as big as we can be, as long as the core of Tegan and Sara remains honest and true and real, like, then I think we'll probably be inspired to continue doing it. As soon as Sara starts being fake, as soon as she's a dick, gone. That's it.
It's the joy of being a family member.
Yeah. I want to believe that we've crossed some sort of threshold where we can't get too terrible now. Like, we've stayed grounded enough where we've made it through our 20s.
We might make a weird record, and we might become too avant-garde or something at some point in our career. But ultimately, at this point, I feel like we're always balancing all those different worlds. But it starts with us, and we're pretty much the same as we were.
But I feel like that's the thing. You guys have done a really good job at minding those two worlds, or two sets of fans and two sets of expectations. One to be this big touring band that people have high expectations of, and the other one to be, like, I don't even know if it's relevant anymore, that word indie cred.
It's relevant enough that it still comes up in the conversations, which is important to us, because I think it is important to address it. Like, integrity is one of the most important things to me. The idea that anyone would see a departure or a change in sound or a change in the way we look or something as being disingenuous or, like, less authentic or whatever than we were before, that makes me feel, really stressed out and defensive and whatever. And it's really funny, when I think about when we were making the Con in 2007, and we were really theatrical then. We used to, love, that was when we really got into, building these sets and making these little TV shows for the internet, and, we had, wacky haircuts, and we were, really getting into, what we felt
as opposed to our really normal haircuts.
Yeah, well, these are a little bit more. These are, ladies in the bank have this haircut. But, I think, back then, we were so much more about our image in a lot of ways. In a more sort of cutesy indie, asymmetrical haircut kind of way. But I find it interesting now that is sort of authentic Tegan and Sara, and then anything that we do now that's kind of actually probably more natural or whatever seems like a real, a departure. And I'm just like, oh God, I try way less now than I did in 2007.
For me, I wonder if it's a Filipino person.
I think it is.
I think so.
It is.
Yeah. You chill out. Yeah, you chill out.
Yeah.
Tell me about how would you define Heartthrob? Because people have said it's a poppier record, or it's more accessible. I've heard from a lot of people. How do you guys see it?
Heartthrob is absolutely our most accessible and poppy record, by far. But I think that it is probably our most brutal and most honest and most vulnerable record. I think people always come up and say, your early records were so, bare and stripped down, you were so honest and whatever. And I listen back and I'm like, what are we talking about? It was all metaphors, and I mean, it was so, we were still not sure who we were. We were really hiding a lot of us back then. So I think this record is, I think it's going to absolutely, I think it's going to be very well received and loved by the fans. So far, they're really embracing the new music. I think that it's going to be something that I think some people it's going to be a speed bump because they're going to be like, well, it's so poppy, but I think they'll get over it. I think we're representing what's sort of happening in music right now, but, we also like to look at ourselves as trendsetters, and I think that we've taken, untraditional songwriting and production and, paired it with more mainstream production, and I think we're still trailblazing here. And also, look at this blazer and my haircut.
I mean, the other thing, too, that's so interesting is that we spent a lot of our career feeling very a fairly small band, you know, like however much the success, you know, was seen from the outside. To us, we were like small fish, you know, like we were out at festivals and there's like hundreds of bands and you really just feel like one band of many. And you don't think about how many people don't like you or don't care about you, or how many times radio stations decided not to play you, or how many times you haven't gotten an ad on Much Music or something like that. You stay in this little world where you're like, these are the people that like us, and this feels really safe and comfortable. And so now that we've started to broaden this like circle, and it feels like we're getting so much more praise or accolades or whatever from a broader audience, it's funny how you can start to really obsess over who doesn't like you. You know, like as
who doesn't like us?
Where, you know, you start to go like, oh my God, this person doesn't like us. But like in the olden days, like basically nobody liked us. You know, like we have like 10,000 fans. You know, like that was it. You know,
everything is proportionally
bigger. I think so.
Yeah.
You just start paying more attention. But we're just grateful. We joke around. A big joke around our thing is that we're very close to just becoming like a heritage act. Like we're like, we've been around for so long. Like when does the heritage tour
We're
happen?
totally in that place. Like people keep asking us, are you worried your fans aren't going to embrace the record? I was like, we are a heritage act. We're in the stage where you can make any kind of record.
We're actually doing a
They're
reunion
just glad
tour.
we're still alive.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Tegan Sara is still kicking around.
Seriously,
we're excited about that.
It's almost like that. It's almost, we're almost there.
At 31.
At 32.
Yeah.
32. 32. We're over the hill.
Yeah.
We're over the hill.